Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm an intuitive coach and mentor,
And I'm Luisa. I'm an awakening coach and energy healer.
and we're your spiritual besties.
We're just everyday women having an extraordinary human experience.
You see, we've both been led down the path of amazing discoveries through the power of spirituality.
So, we're here to share our experiences as we dive deep into all things sacred.
Our hope is that we can contribute to the collective conversation to help you feel less alone and more confident as you walk the path to becoming more connected with the universe.
We'd love for you to join us each week as we share our discoveries and navigate this journey together.
So, just to kind of give a little bit of background on sort of how you and I found each other and how our relationship has essentially evolved very quickly over the last 3, 4 weeks. Like it feels like a lot longer, but I really don't think it's been that long.
When you say that, I'm like, that's it? It feels like a lot longer, yeah.
It really does. We're both part of Facebook group due to a course that we were in, right? And you had posted something for your podcast asking if there's anyone else in the group who had gone through a spiritual awakening. And I saw that post and I was like, I mean, yeah, I have. Like, so from my perspective, I've kind of been thinking about being on podcasts that sort of make sense for my niche, for my ideal clients and speaking to them and getting in front of that audience, right? So when you posted that, I was like, well, I mean, that's not necessarily my current niche. Like that's not necessarily going to be the audience of my ideal clients, but I just really felt like I would love to talk about this. The sort of spiritual guidance that I had kind of started leaning into. And so I responded, right? And I think from the first time we met for like the pre-interview session. I think we both kind of walked away from that like, okay, like this is gonna be good. Let's let's see where this goes.
Yeah. And also, there was more to it than that. For me, it was like I had met people that I had felt had a similar experience in terms of where we ended up after our awakening, after, well, what I called my awakening, but
Mhm.
after they had their own experiences that they did not call a spiritual awakening. But I had never met someone that we shared so much of the awakening experience and the post-awakening experience as well, right?
Mhm.
It was like there was this connection that was beyond just, "Oh, we both experienced these things," not having to, like,
Mhm.
use a dictionary to explain what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
That's what it was like after meeting you that first time. It was like, "Oh, wait, so, like, there are connections that are much deeper than just" because you meet people and it's like you have things in common and maybe there are experiences that may have led you to the same place. After that first meeting, it was like, "Oh, there was a little bit more than that there."
Mhm. Yeah, I think we both were kind of like, wow, it was sort of just different than I think both of us in this space and starting our own businesses and trying to make connections with other people and collaboration and all of that. You connect with people all the time. And I think for us, it was like, wow, this is a different connection and truly felt like we were guided to each other and that we needed to meet. And I think what was even crazier was that we both had that sense and we both had that feeling pretty much from the very start. And then we were both kind of like, I don't know, I think we both sort of were like, oh, that's weird. Should I tell her? Or like, do I
That's
just like
true.
totally geek out and say, oh, we're meant to work together?
That's true because we had a conversation after where we were both like, "Well, I didn't say this, but I thought this or I got this."
Mhm.
And that's another part of it too for me was that it was the way that you speak and the way that you say things. I'll often say like, "Oh, I was guided to," or "I'm guided to," "I'm guided to," and you do that and coming across someone else who's completely fine using that verbiage because that's the truth, right? That's what's happening. We're being guided and we acknowledge that and we know that. But coming across someone else who's like, "Oh yeah, that's totally the way I live my day to day," and they just express it. That was extra for me because I had not had that connection before with people. It was because it is to me, but I think outside of these types of connections, when you say that, people are like, "You're what?"
Right? And that's where I think too, we were both just immediately so authentic. And I think I cried in our first conversation together, which is insane, right? Like, when does that ever happen?
I know, but also it was for me, it was so nice to watch you cry because that's who I am. And the
Mhm.
fact that you were so authentic and were just like, this is what I feel, and this is just letting it out. For me, it was like, oh my gosh, there's other people too, who, because I'm totally that person, right? And in my life, everybody's like, "Oh, you cry about everything." And it's like, yeah, whether it's good or bad, I cry, like negative or
Yep.
positive. There's a lot of emotion. That's how I release. Sometimes you meet someone and it's so exciting. There's like these fireworks that happen and it's this craziness. For me, it was more of this just peaceful.
Almost like a knowing, right? I think we both kind of questioned it, but at the same time, we're like, this just feels really comfortable,
That
right? We were both like, that's weird because it's never happened before. I think once we realized we both felt that way, we started connecting more and then we met for the podcast interview. And I think our conversation was just like amazing. I know you've done other podcasts and you've done other interviews, and I have too. And I felt like our conversation was just like different and so easy or like easeful.
so easy, absolutely authentic. Like even when I was going back and editing the interview, I was like, there's literally not much here that needs to be edited other than the filler words and those things. This just flowed, right? And kind of the way that, at least for me, that I hope to listen to a podcast where it's like two people who are just talking, like just sharing their authentic selves, their experience so authentically. And that's what that was.
And I think then once we recorded that, we kept talking a little bit afterwards and we were both like, okay, we need to keep this going, right? In some way. And I think at the time we were both thinking, how do we keep this going? What do we do? How do we just keep the conversation going? And I think for me, and I had told you this, I just kept getting the word conversation. Like in thinking about how do we collaborate? What do we do together? How do we make this happen? I just kept getting the word conversation. And so then we basically were like, okay, let's just start having conversations. Let's just meet every week and just have conversations because I think that this is what we're meant to be doing here. To what end? I don't think either of us knew or
Or still
still
no.
knows. But, and then that's how this came about. We're like, okay, let's just start having conversations and conversations about our lives, conversations about spirituality, the things that we're learning and how we're growing in this space, and just sharing that with other people, right? Because we just want to be part of the conversation. We want to contribute and let other people in on these conversations just to say, here's what we're going through. Does this resonate with anyone else? And hopefully, some of our conversations can help other people and bring them into this space where they feel comfortable and confident in working through this spirituality and this guidance that we're working through ourselves.
Yeah. And also that other people understand that it's okay, like whoever else may be going through this, because one of
Mhm.
the things that I've always shared that I know I shared with you, which I think was what made our meeting so impactful also, was that we both don't come across other people who are going through this and
Mhm.
expressing this on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And part of this for me is also I want to make sure that other people who are going through it, I am manifesting and putting out the intention that this is who it reaches, because I want you to know, I want people to know that this is okay. And it is also okay that you are the only one going through it and the people that you know, because that's both of us, right? Like in our spaces, in our own lives, there are not a million other people who are going through these. These are not topics that
Mhm.
people are having at the dinner table. And so we hope that with this, it also helps people to understand that it's okay and then allow themselves to lean in some more.
That's one of the things that we've discussed when we've come together and what this could mean and what this could be. like I've said, I'm just like your average suburban mom who you'd like, I don't hang out with people day to day who are like, oh, I'm feeling called to do this, or I received guidance to do this thing. And so having these other women like us, having some women who are having these conversations as just your normal average moms who have found this and are just leaning in and just learning and questioning and trying to figure this all out. I think for me, I would love to just be able to see people doing that and to be a part of that. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be a part of this conversation to let people in to say, hey, this may not be your like normal, average, everyday conversation, but it's okay. And I think we want to make people feel more comfortable, like you said, like make other women feel more comfortable about thinking these things or learning these things or leaning into this because it isn't the average conversation that you're having with your friends or other moms at drop off or whatever.
And it's also so funny, as you mentioned, drop off. Part of this for me is allowing other people to see the difference that the spiritual awakening has had in our lives because
Mhm.
we are average moms, right? We are totally average everyday moms, but we get to live life with a little bit more, I'm gonna say joy because that's what it
Mhm.
feels like on a day to day because of the way that we are able to see the world because of this awakening and because of our spirituality. And I think that that's something else that I hope people get to see and take away is the positive impact that leaning into it all can have in your life. And you may not notice, you may or may not. I have had both, but at drop off, you may not notice that this mom is like having the best time of her life dropping her kid off at school. Just an average everyday activity that a lot of us do. But I know that for myself, I experienced that differently, like
Mhm.
completely differently than I did a year ago, where it was like, ugh, dropping this kid off at school again, where it's like, oh my God, I get to drop my kid off at school. And I'm so grateful for these moments that I get to share with her in the car while she's telling me that my music choices are horrible or whatever.
I mean, you're kind of pinpointing this really great aspect of all of this is once you start building this awareness in your life, you are able to just sort of relax and stop feeling like you need to control every single minute. And then you can also just be in the moment, like be present. And I think that's a huge difference that we've both experienced is being able to be present and feel the gratitude and the joy for that moment that we're living in right then. And I think it's just it's amazing. It's you said joy and yeah, it's joyful. It's like this aliveness that you get to experience when you understand all that's happening around you and happening for you.
I love that, the for you, because that was a big change in perspective. That was
Mhm.
big. That was one of the biggest changes that does allow me to be in the present because of the way that I can look at things and because of the fact that I can be more present versus rushing through life and abiding by all of the things that don't feel authentic to me, that don't jive with me is the best way that I can say it. I totally agree. There's so many benefits and they're all so beautiful and make this life that we are living, this gift that we have been giving of living in this life, in this body, in this time of life and on this earth. It just makes it so much more beautiful and reminds you what you're here for, what our
Mhm.
souls are here for on a regular basis for me.
I think that kind of sums up what we're doing here, right? This is it. We're just here to have these conversations, to let other people in, and just to say, hey, look, if you're feeling like you're being called to something or you're starting to get a little bit interested in this spiritual realm and want to dig in a little bit deeper, we're here to have those conversations and to sort of let people in to see that everything that you're experiencing or going through is totally normal and fine. And it's okay to allow yourself to go there.
Yeah. And we are here to hopefully be a part of that process with you, help you understand that it's okay, help you understand that there are beautiful benefits to it, and hope that we can follow along on your journey if you choose to share it with us.
Absolutely.
That's a wrap for this episode.
We hope you found some inspiration, a helpful tip, or maybe just a good laugh.
Remember, amazing human, you are not alone on this path to connect with your inner wisdom and the universe.
To stay connected and keep the conversation going, subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast so you never miss an episode.
And if this episode resonated with you, share it with your friends, family, or anyone who might find value in it. Until next time.